Hey everyone, welcome to the channel for another Escape From Tarkov video. In this one, I'm finally getting around to an updated body armor guide for the 12.7 patch, now that we've hit a little more of a stable spot in the wipe where things aren't changing as rapidly as they were just a few months ago. I've also got plans to update my ammo and helmet guides for this patch, now that a lot of new helmets, ammo types, and buffs to old ammo have changed the landscape quite a bit. I'm trying out a new format for this one. Instead of going over each piece of armor individually, I've picked out the best overall choices and the best budget options from each armor class, and I'll be going over those with a brief description of why I think they're the best overall or the best for their price. This should keep the length of the video to something reasonable and just give you a quick reference as to what the best armor choices are when you're building your loadouts. So with that intro out of the way, let's get started with the most basic armor in the game, the Class 2 vests, which is the lowest class of body protection. This section is going to be very quick. There's currently only 3 types of Class 2 armor in the game: the P.A.C.A. vest, the 6B2 armor, and the Module 3M. These are all pretty much identical in terms of protection, with the 6B2 having the highest durability. They offer very low protection overall, and they aren't very heavy or expensive. To keep things simple, if you're going to use these, buy whichever one is cheapest on the market or from the traders, because they all offer basically the same minimal amount of protection. Moving on to the Class 3 armor, this is where you start to have some stuff that's actually worth wearing and might save your life if you're lucky. Class 3 armor is basically only going to stop basic pistol rounds, low penetration rifle rounds like hollow point bullets, most shotgun shells, and other low velocity, low penetration bullets. Class 3 armor generally isn't the best for PvP, but it can be pretty useful against scavs and is generally cheap and returns through insurance pretty often. For the best overall option in this class, I would say the press armor is the best because it's made of polyethylene, a very durable, cheap to repair material, which means it can take the most hits before being zeroed. The press armor isn't sold by traders, but it's dropped by scavs frequently and is on the market for very cheap most of the time. Because of this, it's also kind of the best budget Class 3 armor at the same time. From the traders though, I would say the best budget option for Class 3 armor is the 6B5 armored rig at Ragman level 2. It's only about 44,000 rubles, has high durability, decent repair, and has slots for mags and other items, so you don't need to get a tack rig as well. In this category, some other useful options include the Karasa and the 6B23 vest at Ragman level 2. The Karasa can be traded for 1 milk, 1 coffee, and 1 tar cola, which is pretty cheap, and the Karasa has decent enough stats that it's worth using if you get one. You can also get the 6B23 armor at Ragman level 2 for about 47,000 rubles. This vest has high movement penalties, but it has good durability and it repairs very well, which makes it worth using. The UN armor is the other Class 3 vest, and aside from wearing it for quests, you should avoid it because of the high movement penalties and low durability. Moving into the Class 4 armors, there's a lot more options compared to Class 2 and Class 3, and it can be tricky to figure out what each of these armors is good for because there's so many and they're so varied in terms of material, durability, price, and availability. Class 4 armor is a kind of middle ground in Tarkov. It's generally effective against most scav bullets, and players need to choose the right ammo to get through it effectively. However, ammo has been buffed a lot across the board recently, making Class 4 generally less effective in PvP. Personally, I think a few of these stand out as very good choices, but many of them are kind of not worth their weight because of the low durability, high cost, and bad repair rates. I would say, in my opinion, the top 3 choices for Class 4 in Tarkov are the ANA M1 rig, the TV-110 plate carrier, and the Trooper armor. The ANA M1 rig got buffed in a recent patch to be made of armor steel, which is the second most durable material in the game. This significantly buffed its overall protection, and it protects your chest and stomach with 65 durability. It also has a ton of space for mags and loot, including 2 large pouches. On top of this, the trade for it is amazing at Ragman level 3, requiring 4 Aquamarine bottles, which total around 60,000 rubles for the trade, and they can be crafted at the nutrition station. The M1 rig has become one of my favorite choices for looting runs in the mid to end game. It's cheap, it has good stats, and great storage, so overall it's a good choice. Next up, the TV-110 is similar to the M1 rig, but with a much higher durability at 85 points, and it only covers the chest, not the stomach. You can buy the TV-110 at Ragman level 4 for about 98,000 rubles, or you can trade bleach and shampoo at Ragman level 3 for a cheaper price. This rig has even more storage space than the M1, and the high durability means it can take a beating, but it's kind of heavy and only protects your chest. It's one of my favorite armored rigs, but if you don't like running with an unprotected stomach, you can stick with the M1. Finally, the Trooper armor is another that I would consider top tier for Class 4. It's only available from raiders or on the flea market for about 80 to 90,000 rubles. It's made of polyethylene, the most durable material, and it covers your chest with 85 durability. This armor is one of the lightest vests in the game and has very low movement penalties, making it great for low weight loot runs. The high durability and good material make it able to stop a ton of low caliber shots, but it can sometimes be kind of expensive on the market because it's used to trade for the top tier slick armor. All things considered, I like the Trooper for mid game runs, but the M1 and TV110 will give you a little bit better bang for your buck. Moving on to the best budget option for Class 4, there really is one obvious choice, the 6B3 TM armored rig at Ragman level 2. This one could easily be seen as a best-in-class option simply because of the price. 48,000 rubles and you get a Class 4 rig with passable storage space that protects the chest and stomach. The durability is low and the movement penalties aren't great, but the repair is good, and this is basically the definitive staple early to mid-game armor in my opinion. Once you hit level 30 and get Ragman level 3, you can start substituting the M1 rig for the 6B3 because they're very similar in price, but the M1 is more effective. I didn't mention the other vests in this category, the 6B13, 6B23, AVS, 6B5, M2, and A18, because they either have bad durability, a high price, or a combination of the two. They aren't necessarily bad armors, but they aren't top of the line or the best for their money. Moving into the Class 5 armors, in this category, there really isn't a bad choice, so to speak, because they all offer very solid levels of protection in their own way. Class 5 armor will stop a large percentage of rifle rounds, excluding the top tier AP ammo types, as well as pretty much all pistol rounds and shotgun shells. Class 5 armor is a go-to choice for endgame PvP. It stops pretty much all scav ammo, and there are lots of good choices in this category. For the best overall armors in this class, I think the Killa armor, Fort Defender, and CPC plate carrier are easily the top choices for Class 5. The Killa vest can only be found by killing Killa on interchange or buying it on the market for 250,000 rubles or more. However, it's an extremely durable armor with amazing repair rates and extremely low movement penalties. Obviously, the boss's armor is going to be good, and it's one of my favorite PvP vests in the game since it takes low damage from each round that it stops. The Fort Defender armor is another great piece of armor that was added in the 12.6 patch and is very similar in protection to the Killa vest, but it can be found on raiders, boss guards, and sometimes even normal scavs. It's also generally the same price as a Killa vest on the market at around 200,000 rubles or more on most days. The Defender has higher durability than the Killa armor, but it's quite a bit heavier and doesn't repair quite as well. The extra durability is pretty nice though, and it can make the difference between the armor stopping an extra bullet and that bullet turning your thorax to soup. I've really been liking the Defender since it was added, and it's definitely one of my favorite Class 5 armors. Finally, the CPC plate carrier is a Class 5 armored rig that was added somewhat recently like the Defender. This armored rig only protects the chest, but has got good durability at 60 points. It's made of very durable polyethylene, has low movement penalties, and awesome storage space in the rig. It's kind of expensive at around 250,000 or more on the market, but it can be traded for 3 ripstop, 3 aramid, and 3 cordura fabric at Ragman level 4. The CPC is probably the best armored rig in the game stats wise, and if I can find the trade materials, I really like to use this one. Now when it comes to a budget choice for Class 5 armor, it's kind of a relative term since you're still looking at 120 to 200,000 rubles. However, the protection is generally worth paying for in my opinion, and if it helps you survive, it's money well spent. First up, we have the Gazelle armor for 120,000 rubles or 3 coffee and 2 gold chains at Ragman level 3. This is the cheapest Class 5 armor, but it also has the lowest protection because it's made of ceramic and therefore breaks quite quickly. I really like the Gazelle for mid-gear runs and larger maps, but I don't love it for close range fights where people can easily get enough shots on you to break the armor quickly. It does have good movement stats though, and it saved my life numerous times. The other option that I call budget for Class 5 is the TacTech plate carrier, which is actually my favorite armor in Escape from Tarkov and my most frequently used body armor. The TacTech is generally about 200,000 rubles on the market, protects the chest only with 50 durability, and is made of polyethylene, so it is very durable and repairs extremely well. Because it's an armored rig, it has 6 spaces for magazines and 6 pockets, which means you don't have to buy a tac rig for your loadout. It also has low movement penalties, and because it's a 4x4 item size, a lot of players don't loot it, which makes it fairly reliable insurance return in my opinion. There's also 3 different barter trades for the TacTech at Ragman level 2, 3, and 4, so there's there's a lot of ways to get this armor. I swear by the Tactec, though the smallish rig layout and chest only protection can be a turnoff for some people. There's also 3 other class 5 vests that are definitely worth using that are all very similar in price and overall protection. All 3 of these armors drop from the Raiders in Labs and Boss Guards, so they have a pretty stable flea market price of between 150 to 200,000 rubles. First up, the Gen 4 Assault Kit and High Mobility Kit are both very solid armor choices, protecting the chest and stomach and the arms on the Assault Kit with class 5 armor. They offer quite a bit of protection, but they're also both quite heavy and have high movement speed penalties compared to other options. The Reddit M armor is basically an improved Gen 4 high mobility kit with slightly better stats in pretty much every category, but also generally a slightly higher price. You can also pick this one up at Ragman level 3 for about 220,000 rubles if the flea market price is too high. All 3 of these armors are very strong, but outclassed in some ways by the top tier choices. However, pretty much all the class 5 armors are quite good, except the Gen 4 Full and Reddit T5 because their movement penalties are really severe. Finally, we come to the class 6 armor, which is the strongest class in the game and only has 3 options currently, which should make this simple. First up, the best overall armor in this class, and honestly in all of Escape from Tarkov, is the Slick Plate Carrier. This thing kind of destroyed the armor meta when it was added. It combines the highest level of protection in the game with high durability at 80 points, low movement speed penalties, and high repair rates because it's made of steel. The only real disadvantage is that the slick doesn't cover your stomach, which can leave you vulnerable. Honestly, if you can afford a slick armor in every raid, there's almost no reason not to use it, besides the insane cost of over 500,000 rubles on the market. The trade is also not much better, requiring 3 trooper armor and 6 Cordura fabric at Ragman level 4. This armor can stop multiple shots of nearly every ammo type in the game, while still letting you move fast and loot a lot because of its weight, making it the only tier 0 armor in the game. For a budget class 6 option, if you want to call it that, there's the Zhuk 6A, which will run you about 250 to 300,000 rubles or so on the flea market, or you can trade 3 antique vases and 3 teapots to Ragman level 4. This armor is pretty strong, with high durability and the ability to stop a few AP bullets. However, it's fairly heavy and is made of ceramic, so it breaks down quite fast and repairs horribly, just like the Gazelle. The last class 6 armor is the 6B43 armor, which is pretty strong, but also the heaviest, slowest armor in the game, which makes it a hard pass for me. On top of the speed penalty, it breaks down very fast and repairs kinda poorly, so I generally don't recommend it. Well, that pretty much covers it for my take on the best armor in each class. I hope it makes sense to you, and after watching this, you walk away with a decent knowledge of what armor is worth your hard-earned rubles in each class. As I said earlier, I'll be doing a similar video to this one for ammo and helmets in the near future, so stay tuned to the channel if you're interested in those. I've got links to my Twitch stream, Discord server, and Patreon page in the description for anyone interested. Feel free to leave any comments or suggestions down below, and until next time, stay safe in Tarkov City.